So the Lord of Hatred expansion for Diablo 4 has added some of the best systems we have seen in the game's history, and looking at some leaks, or more specifically some data mining, these systems may even be getting expanded at some point into the future to get some pretty ridiculous results and new additions. Now, the things we're going to be taking a look at in this video are from Wowhead. You can go on Wowhead, you can go on the Diablo 4 tab, and you can just look at their database, and they will have pretty much everything that they could scrape from the Diablo 4 database. So all items, all resources, pretty much any item that's ever been in the game, you can go search up and you'll be able to find it in the database, including all of the old stuff that's no longer in the actual game. And you can actually find some stuff that is seemingly already in the database as a fully developed item, but isn't currently in the game. Now, the first thing I want to go over is actually the reason I wanted to make this video, because there is actually a mythic quality resource for the Haradra Cube that does something pretty ridiculous, but also something I very much actually want added into the game, because it'll just allow us to take our crafting of gear to the next level. And this is the Resonant primordial dust. This is a mythic unique crafting material, and the description is a rare material used in the Haradra Cube to upgrade a random affix into a greater affix, which is pretty ridiculous. And it says it's collected from cube spoils and war plans, cash rewards from the Tree of Whispers, and from elite monsters. You just get it in pretty much the exact same way you get all of the other dust materials for the Haradra Cube. It also has its own unique description. If you go and look at all the materials from the cube, they all have some description or kind of flavor text on them. And this one also does. It says, carefully coalesced and attuned by the master Haradrim, the crystal emanates a ringing hum. The air itself seems to bend towards it. So this is an actually fully developed item in the database of Diablo 4. This mythic unique crafting material to add greater affixes to items. And something like this can be absolutely insane for gear crafting. Obviously, we have the gear crafting right now, which if you've been fully utilizing, you can do some pretty ridiculous stuff to gear. You can take a blue item with one greater affix on it to a perfectly rolled legendary item and take it through all of the steps from taking it from that blue item all the way up. And in fact, the easiest way to get very well rolled items is actually to look out for all greater affix blue items, because blue items can have two affixes on them. So you can get blue items with two greater affixes on them, and you just look for your two most valuable affixes on that item. And if you can get a blue with both of those on it, you can turn it pretty easily into a best in slot rolled item. So if you think about doing all of that with all of the different items in the game right now, and how you can take pretty much any rarity and bring it up to like a best in slot item, having a much more rare material that instead can add greater affixes onto items is pretty ridiculous. And I think something that would work very well in the game. And obviously, it's a mythic unique item, so it wouldn't be very common. This wouldn't be a thing you would probably be getting a ton. You would probably come across one every once in a while. That would make this all the more interesting as well. And it does also say it's a random affix, so you could presumably also use the tuning prisms to add a greater affix of a specific category, and it would still be random to that specific category. So you could kind of waste this resource, but just the ability to get these and build them up over time and essentially be able to possibly take like a white item all the way up to like a 4GA perfectly rolled legendary item is something that I think would be just a pretty massive and welcomed addition to the Haradra Cube. And if I had to guess why this item is fully built in the database with flavor text, with descriptions, everything like that, but it currently isn't in the game, I would have to say that it's probably because they didn't want to overload, more specifically, more casual players with too much stuff. Because realistically, the change from season 12 to season 13 with the expansion was pretty massive. Pretty much everything in the game changed. If you haven't been playing like 12 hours a day, you're probably still learning new things about the cube and new things of how to roll different stuff. Like, a lot of people probably still don't know, unless you watch one of my previous videos, that you can re-roll set charms and get 2 greater affixes on those set charms that actually give you increases in those stats. A lot of people probably also didn't know that a lot of the stats on charms will actually go up if you get an ancestral charm instead of just a normal charm. Like, if I'm looking for max resource increase on a normal charm, it only goes to 15, but if I get an ancestral charm, it goes up to 20. Then I could just go re-roll set items and get a greater affix that could further increase it up to 25. And a lot of people probably don't even know that, because there's actually just a ton of small little things you can do through the cube and through some of these other systems that can just increase your power and do a bunch of crazy stuff. So just continuing to increase upon that in the future is something I think they're going to do, but I think they didn't want to go overboard with that, kind of overwhelm people when this was first added. So I could very much see them just adding this primordial dust at some point in the future. Like, maybe in season 14, they'll just add this as one of the new permanent things we can go unlock. There's a pretty good possibility of that, especially since this item is already in the database fully created and kind of fits perfectly into our already existing Herodric cube. Now, the other thing I wanted to go over that I found pretty interesting is that within the database of Diablo 4, there are actually charms of the Mythic uniques. So as you may know, as you've been playing throughout this expansion, you'll just find unique charms that give you the unique effect of existing unique gear pieces, and any gear piece that can be turned into a unique charm, you can actually go and do a craft to turn that unique piece of gear into a unique charm. But as of right now, all uniques aren't able to do that with, and it usually ends up being uniques that are specifically tied to pretty heavily altering abilities that they usually don't allow you to turn into unique charms. Specifically playing a druid, there were so many crazy combinations I could have made if I could just turn some of these unique items into unique charms that you currently can't do it. But if you go in the database, I'm pretty sure every unique actually has an already built charm version of that unique, and the Mythic uniques also have them. So here we have an Heir of Perdition, and you just have a Mythic unique charm version of Heir of Perdition. Now, in the database, any of the unique charms don't show like any of the random rolls they would get on them. It just shows their unique effect, because if you don't know how they work, the unique charms essentially just have 2 random rolls that share the random stat rolls with all of the other charms in the game. So if you can get a specific stat roll on, say, a set charm, those are the exact same rolls as on a unique charm. So there isn't anything unique about the actual affix rolls you can get on any of the unique charms. So within the database, it just shows the unique effect. But we have an Heir of Perdition right here that has its unique effect of 80% multiplicative damage. And then for just another example, we have Eldrarun, the Sword of Justice, which is the new Mythic, which defeating an elite pack reduces your cooldowns by 10 seconds or 12 seconds. And you can go look in the database. All of the Mythics also have their own charms, which is also quite interesting. I don't know if this is something that they ever fully plan on adding into the game, or maybe they just created the system with all of this stuff already created and in mind within it. So maybe at some point in the future, maybe we'll have a season that just allows every item in the game to be turned into a charm. So now you can have Mythic charms, and maybe they'll like completely uncap it and just let us go crazy for a season or something. There is the possibility with things like this, or maybe at some point in the future, there is just some ultra super rare items you can get that will allow you to turn a Mythic into a charm, but it's super ultra grindy, and maybe you have to do a bunch of different steps to finally get to that would take you like dozens and dozens of hours or something to be able to actually get it as some super long tail crafting recipe or something like that. The fact that these are also in the database makes me think that they wanted to create the system where these things were a possibility in the future, and they were already there, so they could potentially just activate this, and then at some point in the future we would be able to have these Mythic unique charms, which could be pretty interesting. But also the craziest part about it is that outside of something like Heir of Perdition, or maybe like a Grandfather or something, I don't think a lot of these Mythic unique effects would actually be super heavily used, even if they were in charm form. And the main thing I really want with a lot of these new systems, and I think Diablo 4 in general now, is just to add new stuff onto the foundation we have now. I think the foundation of Diablo 4 right now is actually in a very, very good spot. But I think for pretty much everything, we just need more stuff. We need more temperings, we need more possibilities with the Herodra Cube, we need more options with the talisman and more ways to customize our talisman. I think we need more interesting options in our skill trees and our Paragon boards, and I think we need more mythic uniques and more uniques to go chase in the game. I think we just need more of all of this stuff, and with some of this data mine information, that actually seems to be the potential direction they're going. But that's all I want to go over, so thanks for watching.